night and the anchor of Nigeria now at ONN and the Nightingale Radio International. How was your week? And I hope you guys had a great time. Well, the reason for this is to inform you, as always, with authentic information about how old war criminals united at the 90th birthday anniversary of General Yakubu Gowon, yes, head of state of Nigeria, between 1967 and 1976. Remember, 6 years after Nigeria's independence, things got crazy as the descendants of those who created the jihad in what later became the Northern Protectorate that was merged with the so-called Southern Protectorate to create the artificial country called Nigeria. Yeah, they wanted to extend the mission of their father, their grandfather, so when the country became independent 6 years after, there was this work to destabilize the country on a large scale. And it started from the west of Nigeria. Yes, a feud between Ladoke Akintola and Chief Obafemi Awolowo that led to a lot of killings in the west of Nigeria that people refer to as a wild, wild west then. And then the wet year. Wet year means wet with acid, wet with petrol, and burn the person down. So much happened that triggered the first military intervention in Nigeria. Yes, that military intervention was to make Chief Obafemi Awolowo the prime minister of Nigeria, because those who planned the coup believed that he would be a better administrator than the rest of them because of what they believe he did in the west of Nigeria. But that was not to be exactly, as the coup was truncated, that threw up someone, Agui Ronsi, who was not part of it and who was the highest ranking military officer at the time. He took over power. And the Nigerian media, as always, never has been good. The mainstream media in Nigeria has never been good reporting situations the way they happened in Nigeria, because they were driven by tribal nationalists. And they termed their first military intervention an Igbo coup, even if there was no Igbo army. What we had at the time was Nigerian army, but they said it was an Igbo coup that triggered the massive killings of Igbos, especially in the north of the country and other parts of the country. And with time, there was the need for the Igbos to live wherever they were in Nigeria, headed towards their ancestral home. Now, negotiations started that led to what we call the Aburi Conference between Yakubu Gowon, who became the head of state of Nigeria, and his counterparts from Biafra, Odumegu Ojukwu. They went to Aburi with General Ankara presiding over the conference. They agreed on everything. And the expectations were high that Nigeria could be saved from going into a war that would be so costly. Yes, everything was agreed on. But sadly, they went back to Nigeria, and Gowon did a direct opposite of everything that was agreed on, because he was being advised, as always, by the British government and some Nigerian foreign mission workers who thought that he gave in so much ground to Ojukwu. And then, now listen to this. So, listen to this so you can hear what Ojukwu had to say and his regrets about this whole thing. I feel so sad that the people of Nigeria still are finding it difficult to come to terms with what happened to their country. And they are still, you know, banding the old narrative that we are tired of. Here, Ojukwu, here.
But at the end of it, I don't want to go because these things are all, the tapes are available, the records are there. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago, I saw a set on the records again. The transcripts are available. But we talked about the Nigerian situation. And certainly, at the end, everybody says, oh, you told them this, you did that. The fact was that our case was so clear that I actually believed at the end of Aburi that the problem was not Gowon, but probably some ambassadors in Lagos who were pressing for something else. Because we understood each other. We agreed on every single point. The drafting was, in fact, my chief secretary with 2 other chief secretaries from the other side. They said, no. And drafted and agreed. We looked at it, we agreed. General Lancra read over the whole report again to us at the end. Asked us if we wanted to amend anything, At the end of all that, the position was so good that actually Ankara drove Jack, Gowon, and myself to the airport. Jack was sitting on his left, I was sitting on his right. He was in the middle. And in the course of that journey, at a point, General Ankara shook his head and said, oh, thank you. Thank you. If only we can go on like this, everything would be all right. I believe I was the one, as I do now from time to time, I go for the dramatic. Suddenly I picked up Gowon's hand, put it on Ankara's lap, brought my other hand, placed it on it, and I said, General Sir, hold us together, I want to say something. So General Ankara put his hand on top of the 2 hands, and I said, General, I want to assure you that I am totally satisfied with everything we said. I will even go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to bring it back. I don't know what happened here, but I'm going to bring it back so we can listen.
But at the end of it,
yes.
I don't want to go because these things are all, the tapes are available, the records are there. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago, I saw a set on the records again. The transcripts are available. But we talked about the Nigerian situation. And certainly, at the end, everybody says, oh, you told them this, you did that. The fact was that our case was so clear that I actually believed at the end of Aburi that the problem was not Gowon, were probably some ambassadors in Lagos who were pressing for something else. Because we understood each other. We agreed on every single point. The drafting was, in fact, my chief secretary with two other chief secretaries from the other side. They said, no. And drafted and agreed. We looked at it, we agreed. General Lancra read over the whole report again to us at the end. Asked us if we wanted to amend anything, no. At the end of all that, the position was so good that actually Ankara drove Jack, Gowon, and myself to the airport. Jack was sitting on his left, I was sitting on his right. He was in the middle. And in the course of that journey, at a point, General Ankara shook his head and said, oh, thank you. Thank you. If only we can go on like this, everything would be all right. I believe I was the one. As I do now from time to time, I go for the dramatic. Suddenly I picked up Gowon's hand, put it on Ankara's lap, brought my other hand, placed it on it, and I said, General Sir, hold us together, I want to say something. So General Ankara put his hand on top of the two hands, and I said, General, I want to assure you that I am totally satisfied with...
Yeah, Alvin, don't worry. Everything's gonna be okay.
I will even go further and say to you something I did not say at the conference, and that is that once we have implemented everything we have said, I would ask you for one favor and one favor only, and that would be to be the one to propose Jack Gowon as a head of state of Nigeria.
It was a two-day conference of peers and old mates, but its aftermath produced even further controversy.
When we came back, and Ojukwu did not go to make the statement he made first, virtually giving the impression that we've agreed for a confederation to move apart, etc., which was really not exactly that. If I had had the opportunity to make my broadcast first, because that was the agreement, not for him to make the broadcast first, then if I had committed myself to what he said, then there wouldn't have been any problem. But he went and said certain things that certainly looked wrong, and therefore we saw in practically everything he did. I think it was to play up to the gallery, not being sincere.
At Aburi, yes, we agreed on area commands for the armed forces. At Aburi, we agreed that the police force would be decentralized. We agreed on those. Yes. We agreed even to show that we didn't separate. At Aburi, we also agreed on certain revenue formula. That's what happened at Aburi. Aburi again, because I always end up, it sounds odd today, but I always end up by saying I must have been naive, because I believed actually that would be the end. I'll confess to you, when I got back to Enugu, oh yes, I had a party, believing that probably the danger was over. That's what we thought. Until they then began to deny everything. It was the denial of Nigeria that made me publish the tapes of Aburi, because we had insisted that each one should have a set of tapes. Everybody talks about confederation. Go and look at the transcript. There is no time that the word confederation came from my lips.
In broad terms, Aburi changed the title of head of state from supreme military commander to commander-in-chief. It gave the regions control over internal affairs, and concurrence of each region was now required for any decision affecting the whole country.
Yes, fellow Nigerians, dear Africans, viewers from across the world, this was what happened. And that was how Nigeria started falling apart. 1966, 1967. Though there were preambles to it, like I highlighted earlier. I feel sad that we have not been able to overcome this tragedy as a people and as a country. We have continued the same thing, the set of the same things that led to that very sad history of ours. Nothing has changed. Everything that created that scenario is still playing out as we speak in Nigeria. And this whole thing, I feel sad but we have to continue to reinforce it, talk about it, the genesis of the Nigerian Odyssey. Hey, good night, Arvin. Thank you very much. I appreciate your love, and I love you too. Thank you very much. You know, the arrogance of the elites of Nigeria from some parts of Nigeria is responsible for the prolonged suffering of Nigeria and the Nigerian people. Yes, I hope so too. And I wish you the very best of the week. Yes. The arrogance of elites from some parts of Nigeria is gravely responsible for the prolonged suffering of Nigeria and the Nigerian people. Their attitude is responsible for the stunting of the growth and development of Nigeria. Their behavior is responsible for what is pulling the country apart. They can't learn because they have no respect for others. They can't learn because they believe that they have the ownership of Nigeria, even though it is erroneous. Yes, Comrade Musa Ali Meshano, thank you very much for your input. Yes, said they had participated in civil war, which claimed many lives of Nigerians, but they are always calling themselves great warriors. Sir, I find it very difficult to understand their warriorship that they had been claiming. No, they are not warriors, they are killers. They are war criminals. And I felt so sad seeing them gather a few days ago in celebration of General Gowon, the commander-in-chief of the killer armed forces of Nigeria. That is not the army of Nigeria and the Nigerian people. The army of Nigeria since 1967 has been made dysfunctional and to be irrepresentative of the army of the people of Nigeria. It is an occupation army with which our people have been subjugated, with which our people have been stopped so many times from standing up for their rights. The army of Nigeria, Nigerian army is not the army of the Nigerian people. They reflect it every minute they have an opportunity to stand up and correct themselves. I'm sure you are aware. Everybody is aware. The world should be aware now if they are not already aware. That there is an ongoing extension of what has been taking place since 1967, still happening in the southeast of Nigeria. Yes, there's an active war going on there. So the war has not ended, and it does not look like it is going to end anytime soon. The issues of people from that part of Nigeria is taken to the extreme always. They cannot express themselves without being hounded. They cannot say anything without the army being deployed to further kill them. Yes, and the world should know this. So I feel so disgusted seeing Obasanjo, Buhari, Babangida, and the rest of them coming together in what I would call reunification of the killers who did harm to Nigerians, who did harm that led to the killing of over 5 million Nigerians from the southeast of Nigeria. What are they celebrating? I believe that the Almighty God gave Gowon longer years to live, to give him the opportunity to reflect and confess his involvement and the extent of what happened, and then for him to answer questions about why he reneged on the Aburi agreement that led to the hostilities. Who fired the first shot? You are killing some people, fellow Nigerians in every part of Nigeria. They retreated home to minimize the killings. You came back and pounded them. You came aerially, you came on the ground, you came everywhere and killed them like flies. You blockaded them and prevented children access to food in contravention to the Geneva Conventions. And when it was over 2 million Igbo children died from hunger and starvation. And the West, yes, the West, Imperial Europe, Britain, France, America, they were all watching as this mayhem was being carried out. Yes, their usual way. They repeated the same thing in Rwanda. Remember, they had the intelligence report about what was about to happen in Rwanda. They turned their faces away because it was an African country, it was a black people. They needed to be decimated and their population reduced, which is happening now. They are using science and everything to fight the people. So now, why should anybody be celebrating Gowon? They and their descendants came together a few days ago in celebrating a war criminal who ought to be arrested. Him, Obasanjo, Buhari, Babangida, and the remnants of all those killers. They ought to have been arrested and taken to The Hague to face trial for their crimes against humanity because they were war criminals. But in what was about one of the worst tragedy to have hit the world, and the worst to date in Africa. Yes, millions, over 5 million Igbos, mostly Igbos, were massacred. I am the convener of Open Nigeria and Africa Unite. We have a platform for this mission, building it into a consciousness for us to better understand ourselves and going back to the history of our country. This evening, I read some very, very annoying things about someone bringing Gowon, eulogizing a war criminal. Why? Because he believes that there's this mindset in Nigeria. One of the things that is killing Nigeria, the North, this Northern nationalism, and then the Southern nationalism that is so weak. There's nothing like that as far as I'm. But the Northern nationalism is strong, was strong, and is crumbling right now. And some people are doing everything they can to continue that tradition that has brought immense poverty to the people of the north of Nigeria. Yes, these criminals come in the name of the north, exploit, abuse, rape, rob, and steal everything from Nigeria in the name of the North. But you know what? They give absolutely nothing to the people of the North and to Nigeria at large. They have had the opportunity of leading Nigeria 10 times out of 13 times. Yet 10 out of Nigeria's heads of states are from this particular region. But their region is the most underdeveloped region and the region that has the poorest people in Nigeria and the whole of Africa, if not the whole of the world. But sadly, these oppressed people are not able to rise up to ask them questions because they are held in the chains of feudalistic oligarchy. The oligarchs there decide what they eat, decide how they decide or make decisions, decide how they vote, decide how they worship God. They don't have absolutely any of their basic human rights left with them. They strip them of everything and impose this hell of poverty on them that is now being expanded across Nigeria. Yes, they are the ones who do not want Nigeria to unite. Our work is to neutralize their activities and dismantle the Nigerian system. And they are very, very resistant. They are fighting it. They are doing everything, including the use of force, raising the army, that is now killing our people instead of fighting Boko Haram and the bandits that have occupied forests and the farmlands across our country. How long are we going to continue to tolerate these people? They don't want the people of Nigeria to unite. When there is time for election, they will tell the people there that it is about religion. It's Islam versus Christianity. But these two religions are nothing of the African people. Yes, even if people have rights to choose how to worship God, but I don't believe that politics is something that people should inject religion into. But sadly, that is the situation. We had a situation in 2023, prior to the general election, where we were supposed to be talking about Nigerian candidates. But what were we talking about? 64 years after, we are talking about Muslim ticket. We're talking about Muslim Christian ticket. We're talking about religion. They had it their way. They recruited rogue bishops to support what their evil. They recruited fake malams to support their evils. Now here we are. Our country is falling apart. Yes, the currency has become like toilet tissue. Yes, the economy is on its belly. The healthcare delivery system is nothing to write home about. Hunger and food insecurity is raging across the land. Physical insecurity, because mercenaries have taken over our country, is the order of the day. Our people are being raped, murdered, and slaughtered in cities and islands, villages across the country, with no one responding. Yes, it's one thing or the other. The country is at a standstill. And then some people are sitting together, old world criminals coming together to celebrate a crook, a fool that is supposed to set our country on fire when he had an opportunity to bring peace. Yes, so they will create this narrative that they had continued to reinforce. Yes, but we are not stupid. There are some of us who know the history. You cannot. We are from a country now where history is no more studied in schools because they want our young generation to be idiots. They don't want them to know the history and the roles that they played in their in what happened to Nigeria. So this is the sad trajectory that we have to deal with. I feel so incensed seeing Nigeria in this height of a hypocrisy, celebrating a criminal, yes, General Gowon, that nobody wants anymore. Even his people came to an understanding that he was a fraud. So why are we celebrating him? Why should anybody be eulogizing a criminal? Yes, this is the Nigeria that we are dealing with right now. Yes, all of them took part. What they called war in Nigeria was never a war. It was a genocide, pure and simple. And the relics are there. The effects are there. The war is still continuing, both mentally and physically. As we speak right now, there is a military mission going on in that place, a military mission going on in Igbo land. But where they are supposed to go to, Sambisa forest is, filled with terrorists. Our forest across our land is filled with bandits who are killing, kidnapping, raping, and slaughtering our people, and even to the extent of selling body organs. This is how sad a country can be. I feel disgusted. I feel truly disgusted that I was expecting Gowon to come clean, to say exactly what happened, and to apologize to the people of Nigeria for the hell he brought upon the country for 3 years and still going on right now. They promised at the end, when they were tired of killing, there was going to be a reconstruction, reconciliation, and reintegration. Tell me the Igbo man that was reintegrated. Yes. And when the war was, when it was over, every Igbo man, regardless of how much money he had in a Nigerian bank, he was given 20 pounds to start life again. 20 pounds. There were millionaires already then. They gave them 20 pounds to start. And the people refused to die. They came back. But they have continued to fence them off of access to opportunity. Now, let me speak to Mr. Peter Obi. I do not have any problem with you extending felicitation message to Gowon, but that you took time and energy with all the details attached to your message to a man who has remained defiant and hateful of the Igbos. I feel disappointed in you for that. I know you want to be president of Nigeria. I think you are going too far to do that because it doesn't look like you will bring about anything different from what we are known for. You should not put respect in overdrive for a man who has not recanted what he said in the past, and he has continued to reinforce the sentence. I feel disappointed in you, Peter Obi, for that. Well, viewers, listeners, and friends, and well wishers from across the world, I thought I shared this disgusting, how disgusted I am with what is taking place in Nigeria, especially with reference to a war criminal who ought to be in jail, being celebrated on his 90th birthday. If you love what we have done so far, please do me a favor, do Nigeria a favor, disseminate this message by sharing it, liking and commenting, for while we wait for the next broadcast. Thank you very much and have a great morning. Bye now.